My check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K collector. And does collecting only rare or pricey video games make you greedy as a collector? And I know that a lot of times when people think about the retro gaming market and they think about how expensive it's become, how difficult it's become to find video games or retro games, one of the biggest fingers, or the people that we point the finger at the most, are resellers. A lot of people look at resellers as the one of the primary reasons as to the rise in costs and the rise in prices of video games. But then there's also that segment that also does point their finger at collectors, certain collectors who appear to be posers, collectors who appear to be shelf collectors who are only in it for the rare or expensive video games. Sometimes these types of collectors are looked at as speculative collectors. Sometimes these collectors are looked at as people who are messing up the game. But I'm not really sure if you can paint with a broad brush here on this topic, because we're coming to a point in collecting where everyone is trying to curate their collection. Everyone's doing it. I think a lot of people who have had some of these larger collections where they've had hundreds, if not thousands of games, a lot of people are coming to the conclusion that they don't need every copy of NBA Live. They don't need every copy of NBA 2K. They can get away with just having maybe the most recent copy of Madden or FIFA. They don't need redundancy when it comes to certain titles or certain games. And because of this, you're starting to see people curate, and they're curating more towards games that they like, more towards games that have more meaning to them, or they're just starting to go after the best quality games. Now, I've said this before. Sometimes the best quality games are some of the most expensive games. When you look at, pick a genre, any genre of video game, just pick any one. If you think about shoot 'em up games, which that's a genre that I'm very much into, when you look at some of the best shoot 'em up games that have been made, typically those have been some of the most expensive shoot 'em up games. Now, this is not a hard and fast rule, right? Like, that's not always the case, because you do have shoot 'em up games that are good, but they're not really expensive. What's an example? Gradius 5. That might be a $40 to $50 shoot 'em up game, which is it's a decent shoot 'em up game, but it's more expensive than a game like an R-Type Final, which is probably a $20 shoot 'em game, or even a game like Sylpheed, which you could probably get for 15 to 18 bucks. That's an even cheaper shoot 'em up. All of them are shoot 'em ups, but it's clear that when you play all three of these shoot 'em up games, as you play the games, you'll realize that you're probably going to have a better experience playing Gradius based on the gameplay, the graphics, so on and so forth. But then what if you want to have an even better shoot 'em up experience? Well, then you might have to transition to the Dreamcast or the Sega Saturn. And when it comes to having an amazing shoot 'em up experience, and someone just commented this on my channel the other day, they made a comment about Radiant Silvergun, how it's a masterpiece of a shoot 'em up. They're not wrong. Radiant Silvergun is a masterpiece of a shoot 'em up, but to have a masterpiece, you're gonna pay masterpiece prices. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to buy Radiant Silvergun. Like I said, you can always buy a $20 copy of R-Type Final. But is R-Type Final going to give you that classic cave shoot 'em up experience that you might look for in a game like Radiant Silvergun or Batsugan? Maybe not. And I think this is one of the reasons why we see prices for certain games so high, because sometimes, not all the times, the price point, the dollar amount, coincides with the level of fun. It coincides with the quality of the music that you get in the game, the quality of the voice acting, the quality of the level design, the quality of the graphics. All of these things factor into the pricing of games sometimes. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some games, and I don't really have any examples in my collection because I personally don't buy games just because they're expensive. I buy games that are really good and they happen to be expensive. Now, really good is obviously a subjective statement, right? Because, I might think that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is the greatest fighting game of all time. Whereas someone might look and say, well, Y2K, you're wrong. King of Fighters is the best fighting game of all time, right? That's when things start to become subjective, or they might say, no, Capcom SNK is the greatest fighting game of all time. This is where things become a little bit subjective. For me, not only do I think Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is the greatest fighting game of all time, I grew up playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2, right? As did many folks of my generation. If you grew up in the arcade generation, and I think my generation was the last of the arcade generation, even though there weren't many arcade generations. I feel like the arcade generation was pretty much the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and like early 2000s, and then it kind of slowly died off. If you're still going to arcade stores or arcade shops, let me know. If you're still going and playing, in an actual arcade store, I'd be really interested to know, because in my area there aren't a ton of those like around anymore. But when you add up the sentimental value, the nostalgia value, and the fact that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is just an amazing game, yeah, it's going to be expensive, right? It's going to be expensive. And so, like I said, we can point, to a lot of reasons why retro games are more expensive, why they're more pricey. And again, I do think YouTubers impact it. I do think that resellers impact it, of course. But I think a lot of the value in some of these games is just inherent. If a game is good, it's good. And if it's really good, it's going to be expensive. And if it's really good and it's rare, it's going to be really expensive, right? So that's where you kind of see some of the prices and some of the pricing. And, I've got folks all the time who tell me how much they love Hyperduel. But most of the people who have commented on how much they like Hyperduel, a lot of the time they're telling me that they're emulating it. And I don't blame them. Not only is it a really expensive game, it's an import, which makes it just tough to get. It's probably tough to get in Japan too, because it's just an expensive game. But it's the most fun shoot 'em up game I've ever played. I remember I stayed up like an entire night playing Hyperduel. Like, that's how fun of a game it was for me. But again, a lot of this is subjective. I do think that resellers play a role in it, and collectors probably do play a role in it too, in that you have collectors who might be willing to pay certain prices for some of these games. Like I just mentioned, someone just last night on eBay paid $700 for a copy of Rule of Rose. They could have been a collector. More than likely, it was a collector. I'm positive it wasn't a reseller, because resellers aren't going to make anything off of a $700 game. But a collector who's looking to add that game to their collection, they will pay that price. And if collectors are the ones propping up the market by paying these prices, then I could see why some of the anger might go their way. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think that the value in some of these games is inherent based on their level of funness, based on their level of rarity, based on their level of quality? Or do you think that all games should just be 99 cents? I'm interested to know your thoughts here. It's the Y2K Collector. I'll catch you in the next video. Take it easy.